Good morning, everybody. It's been a while since we've started with coffee, but I thought I would do a little sit-down video. I have some things that I would like to talk to you guys about, so I thought I would do a get ready with me and kind of talk about these things. Most of them are related to my trip, so I've had some questions in the comment boxes of some of the different videos that I've posted, and I told those individuals that I would kind of go through those things with you, so I thought this would be a good opportunity to do that. And then in the end, I'll probably give you a little condo renovation update, which is not necessarily a good one. So anyway, cheers. It is definitely fall here in New York, which is fantastic. I love that. And so yeah, I'm breaking out the hot coffee. Hot coffee? I'm breaking out the hot coffee now. So trust me, I'll still do my normal protein coffee most days, but I don't know. Today just felt like a cozy, warm coffee day or hot coffee day. So the only bad part is that then you end up with foam on your upper lip when you drink this. All right, let me put that down. So let's get started here. So there are three topics I want to cover in regards to my sort of a trip follow-up, if you would say. So the first is somebody asked me to talk about what I had packed for Paris and London, and did I regret bringing things? Did I regret not bringing things? Just kind of what I would call maybe sort of a post-mortem, as we would call it in, at least what we call it in my business world, about what I packed and, would I had done things differently, I guess. The second thing we're going to talk about is the difference in shopping in Paris versus New York. Somebody asked me about that. And then finally, we are going to talk a little bit about US customs and duties and that whole process. So I did that whole video about how much you can save by shopping in Paris versus at least in the United States. And people definitely brought up the fact that, you still do have to pay potentially customs and duties when you come through immigration and customs in the United States. So I thought I would talk a little bit about that process in general, kind of what happens, what your possibilities are, etc. So, and then like I said, finally we'll wrap up with a little condo update, because I do need to get out a updated renovation vlog for you. I do have that filmed, I just need to edit it. So anyway, so let's start with my packing and what I brought on the trip and what I used and what I didn't use. So before I get to clothing, I will tell you that I did bring a converter. In fact, I think you guys saw me pack that. And I actually got the one, I think it's the same one that Meredith got, because I took some notes from her Amazon travel video that she did. And because I had ordered a converter, but the one I ordered originally was only a European one. And Europe and UK are not on the same electrical system. They don't use the same type of electricity. So I returned that one, and then I ordered the one, I think it's the same one that Meredith got, that actually converts to UK, Australia, Europe, maybe Asia, and obviously, the United States. Great in concept, not in execution. And this has nothing to do, I'm not sure if it had something to do with the charger, because I don't think it was the charger that was at fault, because the charger also had a couple of like USB and I think USB and USB-C, or maybe just USB, I don't remember, on it. And those worked. But when I tried to plug in a couple of different things to the actual outlet portion, like to actually, you know, convert the wattage or ampage or whatever it is, from, you know, obviously a US device to be able to work, it didn't. So I tried both my portable steamer, which I brought. My flat iron didn't work. Now, I do know that there are some products that, even though you have a converter, like, they still won't work. But I'm 99% sure that that's the same flat iron that I took to Europe and the UK, because we went to Scotland 2 years ago. My point is, I'm not 100% sure whether it was the actual charger, and I tried it both. I tried it in several different outlets, and I also tried it in both the UK and in Europe, and like I said, it didn't work. All right, what else did I bring that maybe was not such a great thing? Well, I mean, obviously I brought my straightener, which then I couldn't use, which thankfully I had gotten a blowout, so I didn't really need it at all, and I didn't really get caught in any rain, so that was good. Shoes were great. Wore both of my pairs of tennis shoes, you know, on repeat. They were the only things I brought, and that was a great choice. And just as a reminder, I brought a pair of Hermes Bounce sneakers that were new to me, so those could have been a risk because I had only, I think, worn them maybe once or twice before I took them on the trip. So, you know, just word to the wise and travel tip: don't take shoes that you really haven't broken in yet. Don't try to break them in on a trip. Not a good idea. But I did bring lots of Band-Aids and like that blister pack I think I showed you, which is supposed to be really good. But I didn't need to use any of them, which was great. And my Steve Maddens, which, you know, I have 2 pair of those. Highly, highly recommend. Super comfortable. Great, just classic white sneaker with a little bit of a platform, not one of those enormous ones where you know, feel like Nicki Minaj teetering around or anything. Just a really good classic shoe, and I have it with the black on the back, and then the new ones I got at the Nordstrom sale were like a kind of a rose gold. So let's talk about the clothes. So I took a pair of black, sort of slim pant, which I had gotten in the Nordstrom sale. They were that Zella pair that I really, really liked. It was just like a perfect fit and like comfy, like sort of athleisure, but they looked like almost like dress pants. I took 2 pair of wide leg trousers that I had gotten from Amazon. And I took 1 pair of jeans, and regular jeans, and then I traveled in my, you know, rag and bone, like Miramar jeans, but not jeans, pair of pants, which are fantastic. Highly, highly recommend. I will have everything linked below. So obviously the rag and bone jeans, no brainer, like that I wore both to and from. The pair of regular jeans I took, which I think were one of my pair of cut from the cloth. Again, great, served me well. Both pair of Amazon Flowy, like wide leg pants, I thought were great. I do think, unfortunately, that I bought them in a size too big. So I was constantly kind of having to like hike those up or whatever, but I think that was my own fault, not the pants' fault, but I would highly recommend it. They're a great price. And the black pair of pants I wore once, during the trip. Oh, and I brought a black silk midi or satin midi skirt, which I didn't end up wearing because I totally forgot I had it, and I would have worn it when I went out to dinner with Dale and Meredith in Paris, but I forgot I had it, and so there you are. In hindsight, I probably would have brought 1 additional pair of jeans and maybe 1, either not the black pair of pants, like the slim ones, the Zella ones, or yeah, I think I would probably do that just because I found myself wearing the jeans the most. So I probably would have maybe made that switch. As far as tops, I definitely brought too many. Now, I knew I was bringing more than I needed because, you know, you just, if you like are out or whatever, if it's hot and it's sweaty and you don't want to wear that t-shirt, whatever, you just want to have some options. Now, I brought, as you guys know, all basics and all neutrals. So I would highly recommend kind of picking a color theme and sticking with it. So I brought like a white and a black cropped t-shirts that I have from, where are those from? Uniqlo, I think. And I didn't end up wearing those. I thought I was gonna wear those actually with the like wide leg trousers. I didn't end up wearing either one of those. And I wore, and I'll pop up pictures here of my outfits that I wore on the trip. I only really wore one of the Kate sweaters. I think I wore the cream with the black stripe one. Definitely wore the Amazon basic tanks that I have. I really, really, really like those. I think those are, switch brushes here, really fantastic. Very glad I invested in those. Probably will get some more for next summer. They just look great underneath things. They layer really, really well. So I didn't wear the 2 crop t-shirts. I think I only wore the white Everlane t-shirt that I brought, not the black one. I wore the V-neck one. So, I mean, basically I would say in general, aside from the black satin skirt that I just forgot that I brought, that I was planning on wearing to dinner that night and just totally forgot I had it. And that was a last minute ad when I was packing, literally last minute, because I originally thought I was gonna do carry-on only. I added that very at the last minute, so I think I sort of just kind of forgot that I had it, even though I had unpacked it and everything. But I would say in general, I felt like I packed well. I definitely checked the weather before I left. I knew it was gonna be maybe a little bit unseasonably warm. It was, you know, in the, I would say like 60s, high 60s in London. So nice fall weather, but Paris definitely was warmer. It was like in the 80s, I think, for most days, except for the very last day when I left, and that was only gonna be like a high of like 65. So really, other than some t-shirts, I believe I wore everything that I brought. I definitely wore both blazers on repeat. I think I wore both of them twice. I wore the kind of lady cardigan that I brought. In general, I would say I packed pretty well. I mean, I think you always, I mean, I shouldn't say always, but I'm a believer, especially if they're like thin, small things like t-shirts, pack a few more of those. You never know, like I said, if you end up, you know, spilling on something, or like I said, it's hot outside and you end up sort of like sweating in one, and so you just need a fresh one. I mean, I will definitely rewear things, especially if I haven't like sweated in them or whatever, because I don't travel with like, you know, 3 suitcases. I definitely travel more than what David travels with, but I would say I think I'm a fairly reasonable traveler. How about that? I don't think I necessarily travel super light, but I definitely don't travel with like every single thing in my wardrobe and in my beauty closet, for example. So I guess to sum it up, really the only things that I wish I had done differently was I wish I had had, like I said, a pair of those Vivaia shoes, or something that maybe was like a little bit dressier. I probably would have taken one more pair of shoes. I definitely would have taken one more pair of jeans. And yeah, those are probably my only regrets. Like I said, I never felt like inappropriately dressed, for example, for the weather or something like that. It just all went pretty well. So by the way, I am only doing like kind of a bare minimum makeup here because I actually have a dentist appointment later today where they're finally putting in my implant. Very happy about that, but you know, I don't really need to be like all glammed up for the dentist. So let's talk about the difference between shopping in Paris versus shopping in New York. Well, first I would say, and this, I'll even say this for London too, and this is just for my other content creators out there, I would say it is definitely easier to vlog and film in stores in Europe and the UK than it is in the United States. People will, I'm sure, you know, if you, like I said, are a content creator, will know that a lot of times you get told off, at least in the United States, especially in the like actual boutiques. Not so much necessarily in a department store boutique, although Chanel will still tell you to stop even in a department store like Bloomingdale's or Saks. or even, yeah, or Bergdorf's, they tell me off too. But in general, I can film pretty easily, for example, like at Dior or at any of those department stores or, you know, whatever. So I felt like even in the actual boutiques though, in Europe and London, that it was much easier to film. That being aside, because probably most of you who are watching this are not content creators, I would say that I found a similar level of customer service. What do I mean by that? I would say that in general, the stores that I find that have great customer service in the United States, i.e. Fendi, i.e. Dior, have the same level of customer service in Europe and London. This one's where, you know, it's a little bit more of a challenge, maybe Chanel. Now, please understand, like, I get amazing service from Andrew at Chanel, my sales associate here. But, you know, outside of that, I feel like if I go into another Chanel boutique, the level of service is not as good. In other words, I feel like I get the level of service from Andrew because I know him. Although in all honesty, I got incredible customer service from him the very, very first time I ever shopped with him. And that was when we were just coming back from Europe 2 years ago, and just like, we were on like a long layover, like a 2-day layover in New York to kind of get our time zone and feet back under us from traveling. We used to do that when we would come back from Europe. And so he didn't know me from Adam. So, you know, him aside, I would say that the level of customer service, I think, you know, you're going to find sort of the same at Hermes. I mean, they're helpful, but not friendly. Fendi, it doesn't matter where you go, they were amazing. Now, I will say, despite having to wait a little bit at Louis Vuitton, for example, on Avenue Montaigne, once I was able to work with someone, they were fantastic. And this is where I will say there's a bit of a difference, or I think a big difference, between the United States, or at least New York, shopping and Paris. I found that, and I don't know if I don't even think it was just Louis Vuitton, it was Fendi too, a huge willingness to actually put things on hold. And not just put things on hold that, you know, they have like a million of, okay? Like, let's say maybe a Speedy or something that's, you know, a little more attainable or whatever. I'm talking about like very expensive and very limited, like they only have one mini Capucines. And, you know, at the Avenue Montaigne store, they put outerwear on hold for me. They put a mini pochette accessoire, which they only had one of. She put that on hold for me because they were ordering some things in for me, which I think, again, when it comes to, especially in Paris, and you're talking about a French brand, you have way more, and I've got this in my notes, you have way more access to stock. Now, I know that Meredith found that at the Hermes boutique that they didn't have a lot of stock, and that was very unfortunate. I didn't really look at much ready to wear, and I didn't really look at shoes, so I can't speak to that personally. But in general, I felt like if a specific boutique didn't have something, they were immediately offering to get it, and that it could be there the next day. So that part I thought was amazing. And so, for example, like in Avenue Montaigne, I was trying to get a certain small leather good, which they didn't have in stock, but she's like, I can get it for you, we'll bring it tomorrow. So then when I was gonna buy, for example, one of the items that I knew I wanted, she was like, oh, no, well, I'll just put it on hold for you. And, you know, when you come back tomorrow to look at the other outerwear, because like I said, they were bringing in some things for me, then, you know, you can just get it then. That I thought was amazing. And I didn't know if that was sort of a one-off, but it definitely wasn't, because like I said, then I went to the Le Bon Marché Vuitton, and the first day held 3 mini Capucines for me. 3. And we're talking about exotics too. Like I said, one of a kind, like that they only had one of, was just amazing. And then I still really couldn't make up my mind which one I wanted. And then I was also thinking about another bag too when I come back, and they were like, oh, no, it's fine. Just, you know, come back tomorrow. They were just so willing to let me take my time to make a decision and just super, super willing, like I said, to hold things and to work with me. And, you know, obviously a huge difference between shopping in Paris and, you know, even New York are still the number of boutiques. Even though there are obviously more boutiques in New York than there are, you know, let's say than even in Chicago or Dallas, you know, some other big, you know, pretty cosmopolitan metropolitan cities, New York still doesn't compare to Paris. I mean, I almost felt like, especially when I was down in like the Avenue Montaigne, Rue Saint Honoré, like that area, like literally you could not walk 2 steps without running into yet another boutique, you know, Chanel boutique or Dior boutique or whatever. It's like you literally just turn around and there was another one. Sometimes there were ones that were like across the street from each other. If you guys remember in my very first Paris vlog, I was going into the Fendi and then I happened to look across Avenue Montaigne and there was another Fendi like literally across the street. Like, I mean, like literally you could throw a stone at it. And it wasn't like it was the men's store or anything. No, it was just another Fendi boutique that I think had started as a pop-up and they decided to just keep it and make it a normal store now, albeit it was much smaller than the regular Avenue Montaigne. But yeah, just that was nice. And obviously because of that, you know, you got to see a ton. The other thing that I will say, and I noticed this when I was in London as well, is that the concessions in department stores are much, much bigger. So, and I really noticed this when we were like at Selfridges and Harrods. Like when I was walking to go meet Han and Claire, and turned out then to be also Gwenny and the Lion at Fendi in Harrods, and I was walking through, like the Chanel boutique there is enormous. I mean, it's multiple rooms and on both sides of the hall. And I mean, I'm just talking about like the handbag area, and then you go upstairs and you get the ready-to-wear area. I mean, just, I was just shocked at how big. I was also shocked, this is a difference, we do not have Hermes boutiques or concessions in department stores here. I don't think anywhere. And I knew that there was one in Harrods, but I did not know that there was one in Selfridges too. So I was very surprised to see that. And like I said, that is just something that you will not find generally in the United States, where it definitely seems like it's something that they do in Europe, or at least in the UK. I just was very surprised by that. And by the way, I will list everything that I put on my face down below. This is MAC Modesty, a go-to of mine, especially for like just like a nude lip. But okay, so I'm trying to think anything else about like the shopping. Yeah, like I said, I don't think that the customer service was any better or worse in any locations that you think of where it should be better, or not should be better or worse, or where you've already experienced it to be better or worse. And yeah, I would just say stock levels are definitely better. And like I said, just the willingness to hold things, I was very, very surprised at. So that was a really nice surprise. Definitely need to warm this up. Let's talk about customs and duties in the United States. First of all, I'm going to caveat this with saying this is my experience and my experience only. So please know that your experience could be very different. And the very first thing I am going to say is please, please, please declare your items. If you don't declare your items and they find out that you didn't declare your items, not only can they fine you, but even worse, they can seize the items that you bought and you will never see them again. So, and the other thing, I don't know that this is 100% true, but I've heard anecdotally, like on the Purse forum and through YouTube videos, that if you are caught not declaring when you come in and they catch you with these items, whatever, that they somehow flag your profile so that any other time you come through customs, they will like take you aside and check all of your luggage, etc. Like you are now targeted that, you know, you could be bringing things in without declaring. So first and foremost, declare your items. So I went into this shopping, experience, I guess I would say, knowing, and when I was doing my calculations, thinking about then what the potential, customs or duties impact could be. And that's definitely something you want to factor in. So the video that I did where I talked about, the savings, etc. Yes, I didn't talk about the customs piece because obviously it's different for everyone depending on what country you're in, but it also depends on, for example, like how many people you're traveling with. So because it was just me, I only got the $800 deduction, if you want to call it that. So in the United States, you can bring in up to $800 per person tax free. So when I, for example, was traveling with David, I got to count $1,600 because I took his $800, because of course he didn't buy anything. I took his $800 and my $800 to put that towards what I had purchased. My next point and my next piece of advice, again, with declaring, is honesty is 100% the best policy. This is not a time to necessarily subscribe to it's easier to ask for forgiveness than it is for permission. I think you just be upfront and tell them what you have. Now, with that, I think being organized is really, really important. And I wish I could remember what YouTuber, she is a Canadian creator, and she did some great videos on this, and I watched her video like several times. This was, like I said, like 2.5 years ago or 2 years ago before we went to Europe, to really like understand the process. Now, granted, it was a little bit different for her in Canada, but most of it applied to the United States. But I knew, exactly what I bought. So I had a list of everything that I purchased. I had it in the, converted to the US dollar. But what's really important to do, and this is something that not all customs agents understand, but the price that they need to base any customs or duties on is the price that you are going to pay after you get the VAT back, right? Because the price that they have on the customs form is the total price that they charged, right? And yes, you paid that, but you're going to be getting that VAT back. So what you paid and what the item is really valued at is not the total of what that item cost was. So in other words, let's take an easy math here. So let's say the item was 1,000 euros and you get a 12% VAT back, which means you're going to get $120 back, which means the item really only cost you, and what the item you're bringing in's value is really only $880, not $1,000. So they should only charge you duties on the $880. Now, I do not know whether you really should subtract the entire VAT amount. So in other words, because France has a 20% VAT, I don't know whether that's what you could potentially claim or not. I've not done enough research to know if that's like maybe what you should do. So in other words, instead of saying that you should be taxed on a $1,000 or $1,000, yeah, we'll say dollar item, you should only be taxed on an $800 item. I don't know that difference. I think just to be safe and conservative, if you just go with what the VAT is that you are going to receive, I don't think you can go wrong there. So what I had, like I said, on my phone was the name of the item and then the amount I paid in USD minus the VAT. So I took, the euro price, multiplied that times 0.88. So I got what the actual price was that I paid in euros, and I converted that to USD, and that was the number that I had in my phone. I added all that up, subtracted $800, saw what the total is, and a good rule of thumb to go by when you are going through customs, especially if you're buying luxury handbags, is to assume there's going to be a 10% customs or duties tax put on there. So, when I had done all this math and when I had my spreadsheets that I talked to you guys about on my laptop, I was figuring that in. Now, some people would say, okay, but yeah, you're losing some of the value. Well, yes, you are losing some of the value potentially if they charge you for the entire amount. But here's where my experience comes in. Like I said, please, huge asterisk here. This is my experience only, and I cannot tell you that this will happen to every single person, which is why I'm saying you need to plan for the worst. Plan for the worst, hope for the best. And I will say for me, that has happened both times that this has gone through. It really was very beneficial to me this particular time. So unfortunately, United States Customs and Duties is not a, like, here's a table and this is how much you spent and this is the percentage and so this is how much you're gonna pay. There's a lot of like back of the napkin math going on here, and I saw it with both customs agents that I have had experience with in both of these trips. They both, like, they're chicken scratching on here, and they're subtracting things that you have no idea why they're subtracting. So in true, if they were doing it based on the actual like formula, right, it should be, so let's say you spent, again, let's go with $10,000, okay? And that was like after the VAT and converted, whatever. So you will have spent $10,000. They're supposed to take $800, and it's just you traveling, $800 off. So they should be taxing you on $9,200. So 10% of that, you would expect to pay $920. That's never how it is, or at least in my experience. And from what I've heard from other people, they've had similar experiences, but again, please don't take this as a rule of thumb. Please know that they could potentially charge you for whatever you purchased minus whatever, $800 times whatever number of people you have, and then tax you fully on that. But like I said, I have found that if you are honest, they really, really appreciate people being honest, and that both customs agents that I've been through have said that to me. Thank you so much for being honest. And they basically reward you for being honest. So in this particular case, the gentleman that I worked with, he just asked for like a couple of the items that I had purchased. Like, what did you purchase? And I said, well, I bought this and I bought that and whatever. And he's like, okay. And then he started flipping through his book because, like I said, everything through US Customs has a different percentage that they tax you based on, which is why I said if you kind of go with 10%, that's a general, I believe that's what leather goods are taxed at. So if you're buying leather bags, you can kind of go with 10%. But he was so creative. He went, because one of the items that I had bought only gets taxed at 2%. So he basically, after doing a lot of very creative math, which I don't even know what math that was, by taking, what the total was and subtracting my $800 right off the bat, right? And then subtracting a whole bunch of other things, he came up with the 2% as $94. So that's what I paid for everything that you will see that I brought through in taxes and duties. Now, I definitely paid more than that when we came back the last time. I paid maybe $700, something like that. Again, nowhere near what they could have charged me. And I will say that I had to educate that customs agent. He was relatively new, and I had to educate him on the whole, no, you shouldn't be charging me, because when I showed him the VAT forms, he was looking at the full amount, and I'm like, well, no, you wouldn't base the taxes and duties on that number because I'm not really paying that number. I'm, getting that's tax that I'm getting back, so that's not how much anyway. So you may have to do a little education, but the one I got, like I said, coming through this last time was obviously very knowledgeable, and like I said, probably said to me 3 times, thank you so much for being honest. Now, I will say that I have heard, I have no confirmation of this, but I have heard and read that, at least in the United States, that they are getting information fed to them, electronically from, for example, like Global Blue and Planet Tax, is that what it's called? I can't even remember. But the big tax-free VAT companies, because as we talked about, you have to have your passport in order to claim the VAT back. So when you purchase something, you present your passport to whoever is ringing you up, and they input that information into the system to then generate with, let's say Global Blue, your VAT refund, and it's tied to your passport number. So they have all that information, which would certainly make sense that they are able to share that very easily with your local customs agent. So when I actually got up to the immigration officer, right, where they look at your passport and stamp it and do all that fun things, and they ask you questions like, are you bringing in any actual money in more of $10,000? Are you bringing in any agricultural products, food, whatever? Are you bringing in, do you have anything to declare? That gentleman was definitely doing a lot of looking on his computer screen, which to me made me, because when I told him, yes, I do have things to declare, and then he asked me what, he then did, like I said, there was a good probably 2 to 3 minutes of him looking at his computer and, clicking here and clicking there and scrolling and whatever. So do I know that he could actually see that information for sure? No, I have no idea. But it certainly seemed like he was looking at something, and then after he did that looking, he said, follow me, which is exactly what happened the last time, what we said. Main takeaways from this: declare, be honest, and in my experience, you will be rewarded for that. Like I said, there's some very strange math going on there. I've never, and even from people who I have, seen on the purse form, etc., when they talk about it, no one ever seems to get charged, like I said, what technically, by the book, you should be charged. There's always this creative math thing that happens. But that all being said, please plan for the worst. Prepare to pay, okay? What you brought in is, $10,000 more than what you're allowed. Be prepared to pay another $1,000, okay? Just know that going in, and if that needs to factor into what you're purchasing, then definitely, put that in your spreadsheet like I had in mind, so that you know what the potential impact could be. And then if you don't, and you, like I said, only end up paying a small percent fraction of what it could have been, then then it's a great bonus. And basically all of the savings that I sort of attributed based on the lower price added on to getting the VAT back, pretty much all of that I still got, because like I said, $94. Okay, so finally, let's talk about the condo. Well, remember when I said we were having issues and they hadn't shown up and whatever? Well, they came back, and then they left, and then they came back, and then they left, and then they came back, and now they've left again. So I think this is the 4th time that they just have not shown up. So they haven't been here since, today is Wednesday. They haven't been here since last Wednesday. So it's been 4 business days. Today will obviously be 5, but they have not shown up. The main contractor guy who has the crew, we asked him, for example, on Sunday, what are you going to be doing on Monday, so that we can make sure that we have things moved out of your way so it's seamless and easy for you to work. And he came back and said, we're going to be, fixing walls and sanding and things like that. So David took all of his things out of his work alcove, and he's been sitting at the kitchen counter ever since, but now he's moved back because, like I said, it's Wednesday and they still haven't been here. He said there was going to be a guy coming today when I asked him yesterday, you haven't been here now since last Wednesday, or what's going on? And I have a guy coming tomorrow. Well, it is 11:44 my time now, and no, there's nobody here. So we're pretty sure that no one's coming today, even though he said somebody was coming today. And then we heard that he told the business guy of the whole thing that that it was done, that the whole condo was done. Yeah, it's not done. If I showed you what done looks like in David's alcove, you clearly know it's not done. So yeah, we're again a little frustrated. Now, here's the twist on the whole thing. So when I came home from Europe, we were having a torrential downpour here in New York. You may have heard about the flooding that we had in certain parts of the city. We didn't have any flooding up on the Upper East Side where we are, but you know, there were definitely subways that were completely shut down because subway stations were, you know, filled with water, and some of the airports had to shut down because there was water like up to the seats in some of the terminals. I don't even understand how that happens, but anyway, somehow, despite being on the 25th floor of our building, we got water in both Hannah and Nick's rooms. So Hannah's floor, brand new floor, was bowed probably 6 to 8 inches off of the actual floor. Like, it was crazy. Like, I went into her room, and those of you who have teenagers know, you don't go into your teenager's room very often because you just don't want to. But I did for something for several days, like after it had happened, and I walked in and I walked over to like where her air conditioning unit is in the built-in, and I walked on the floor, and I mean, it literally, I mean, like, if this is the actual floor, I mean, it was like this. It was crazy, and I'm talking like a 6 foot by 6 foot section. Why she didn't say anything to me, I don't know, but whatever, we'll let that go. So Nick's room just had a tiny bit that was affected, but anyway, bottom line is that the building took a little while to respond, and they were going to be fixing things. They brought a dehumidifier into Hannah's room and sucked out like buckets and buckets of water. And then they were going to just fix it, and they weren't going to do any mold tests. So we had to bring in our own person, our own company to do a mold test. We found out that there indeed is mold. In fact, probably black mold in Nick's room along the baseboard. So they are now having to remediate all of that. So in addition to just our life being under construction from this, now Nick cannot be in his room at all because it's unsafe for him. So we had to put up his bed, his single bed that he had been using when he and Hannah were sharing a room. So we popped that up in the like open part of our master bedroom because they had pretty much moved like all the construction stuff like over kind of to one half of the room, which was nice because it felt like it was kind of done a little bit. But anyway, so we popped up that single bed. We still had the frame and the mattress. We hadn't sold it yet. Put that in there. So he's now actually in our master bedroom, just on that bed, which he hates. It's super uncomfortable, he said. And then his room is completely closed off with now big giant HEPA filters in there. Hannah's room, even though it got the most water damage, the mold wasn't as bad there. I don't know if it was because they did come in and remediate and bring in the dehumidifiers and sucked that water out. But whatever the case is, Hannah's room is safe for her to sleep in, but she does have 2, again, giant HEPA filters in her room, you know, mitigating any mold spores that might have been in the air. But it sounds like basically like a freight train is running through both of their rooms. And then to add to it, which I was thrilled that Morgan came because she's looking for cars. And so she had some cars out here in the New York area that she was hoping one of them would work and she would be able to just drive it back to Chicago. That didn't happen, spoiler alert. But she came and I'm like, okay, we're already down to like only being able to use part of the condo before any of this happened. Now you throw in the fact that Nick can't be in his room. So now he is in our room. We're still, as you can see, in the living room. And I need to put Morgan somewhere. And like I said, I would never tell her not to come, but it was not exactly the best timing as far as having a visitor. So she shared a bed with Hannah, which, you know, is fine, but it's only a full-size bed. Hannah only has a double bed. She didn't really want a queen bed in her room, and so, you know, it's a little tight for 2 people. But anyway, they made it work. Morgan was only here 2 nights, so it was fine. But yeah, that's the status of what we're going through right now. It's super fun, and all I can say is that humor helps a lot. And you know, when it comes to things like this, you just kind of have to laugh. It's like I couldn't have even like dreamt that. Who would have ever thought that on the 25th floor we would ever have to worry about water? Now I could see maybe like a leak from like the people that are above us, because I certainly know that that can happen and whatever. Never would I thought that I had to worry about rain being on the 25th floor of a building in New York, but apparently you do. So there you are. So that's it, my friends. Those are the updates I have for you. I hope you enjoyed hearing about some sort of, you know, bits and pieces and my thoughts about things on my trip, you know, what I packed, difference in shopping, and then sort of the customs process, and the lovely, very exciting update on our condo. I really wish I could have brought you a better update, and that it was like done and we are moving our stuff back in, but no, that's not it. So anyway, if you enjoyed this video, please give it a thumbs up. I would really appreciate that. And if you haven't subscribed, we would love to have you. We are getting closer and closer to 3,000 subscribers, which is my goal by the end of the year. So if you can help me out, that would be great. I think we're just right about 2,700. So 300 more subscribers would be amazing before the end of the year. So if you haven't, please click the subscribe button and the notification bell so you know when I upload videos. Sorry that you can hear David in the background. He's on a very, very loud Zoom and doesn't seem to understand the concept of headphones. But anyway, what else? Just, yeah, let me know your thoughts in the comments below. If you have any other questions again about the trip, I've loved people asking questions. And like I said, they've been great ideas. So I hope that this was helpful to those of you who did ask questions, but let me know if you have any more in the comments below. If you haven't had enough of me yet, I will pop another video up here for you to watch. And wherever you are, I hope you are having an amazing day or evening, and I will catch you in the next one. Bye, guys.